Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you some book recommendations. So if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. So today's video is an open collaboration video with Abby from Rooted in Rest and Jessica from the Waldock Way. So there'll be a playlist link down below with other homeschool moms sharing their book recommendations. And this could be such a big variety of things, right? They could go and share their favorite book series. They could do it by age. I'm gonna show you mostly like our group reading type stuff today. So if you are just looking for ideas of things to read or maybe by age, there could be options for you. So make sure you check out that playlist. I'll make sure it's down below. And without further ado, let's talk about some books. All right, so like I just mentioned, I was trying to figure out how to approach this video because talking about books and sharing, even if it was by every age group, I have 6 kids, and that's a lot of books. And so I'm like, okay, what's the best way to go about this? Most of the things I'm sharing today are books we've read recently for group work, or at least books I'd like to read for group work, because that's just what I think about the most. That's where we spend the most time reading, is doing our group work. So that's what I'm gonna share with you today. And I have a little like surprise intermission where my kids are gonna come and share their favorite books. I had them think about it as part of kind of a school project, and then practice a little bit of what they might say. And then they're gonna describe them briefly to you. And we recorded them already and everything. And so they're gonna share with you, and hopefully it'll be fun. And I'll make sure, if you can't understand them, I'm gonna link all their books down below and all the ones that I mentioned so that you can look through them and decide what you would like to get or what might interest your kids as well. So that's kind of what we're doing here today. All right, so we're gonna go back to some of the first group reading books we used when we moved into this house. And I'm gonna tell you about them. And all of these books could be read on an individual level too. Obviously, you just have to figure out the reading age, you know, what's good for what child and their reading level and all that kind of stuff. But one of the first books we read together when my kids were a little bit smaller were the Magic Treehouse books. We have all of them. Well, I think like all of these type. There's a few different kinds, I think. I just brought down 3 of them because they're upstairs. But I like them because they're short and quick and engaging. And so that was easy for younger kids as well. And like I said, these are really easy books. Like for someone that wants just a chapter book who's starting to read, I feel like these are a good option as well. And we enjoyed reading these together as a family, and we went through the whole, we have like 26 of them or something like that. And then it's also giving you a little bit of historical fiction vibes as well. Not everything is historical fiction, but you know, there's a lot of different things that it's going to talk about that happened in history. So you could always take a few minutes and talk about that as well. So that's something that I really enjoyed about these. So we used to love reading these. We still have them because I still have some littler kids that might enjoy reading them pretty soon. So this would be something that I would recommend. Okay, another series or type of books that I would recommend that I think are really good for group topics are these Christian Heroes Then and Now. And then they also have, are they Heroes of History? Something like that, books as well. And they can come in groups, like in series, or you can get them off of Amazon. There's also some, I can't remember the online place that sells them also, but you can get them in groups of a certain amount of books. You could buy them separately, depending on maybe who you want to talk about. And I have a few other ones to show you that we haven't actually read, but I'd like to read with my kids. But I like these because they're nonfiction, you know, and I think having something that's nonfiction or that's a little bit of a harder topic, even if it's more like historical fiction, is really good because you're in a safe environment. Your kids are in a safe environment where you can talk about those things. So I had read The Hiding Place for book club before, like when my kids were super, super little, my older kids were super little. And I really liked that. So when I saw this book for Corey ten Boom, I was like, we should read that. And I think The Hiding Place would also be a really good book to read in a group setting because then you can discuss it and talk about it. Sorry, my voice is having issues. It's been having issues the last few days. And so every time I talk, it just is like not wanting to cooperate with me. But I feel like this is a really good one. And like I said, The Hiding Place I feel like would be really good as well. And then you could also, you personally, learn about some people maybe you're not as familiar with, which is something that I love about group reading and why I like picking these books because there's just so many great things to learn, and they cover those harder topics that maybe you wouldn't be discussing with your kids if you weren't reading it in more of a story type form. Another book that I enjoyed recently reading with my kids was Pax. There is a second one of this, I believe. I had a friend that recommended it that also homeschools. And this is another one that's fiction, but it has a lot of really good topics. Some of them are a little bit harder, or a little more sensitive topics. And so it's a really good discussion book. There's a lot of things in here you could talk about, or might have your kids asking you questions about. They're like, well, what about this? Or why is that happening? Or why is there a war going on? And things like that. And so they might just be curious about those things and want to know. So it's, again, that safe environment to be able to discuss the harder topics. But it's also an interesting book. You know, it's from this perspective of this fox, but then you also have the boy who is kind of his owner, who found him when he was little, that his perspective as well. So you have a few different perspectives going on, some different stories like and timelines going on. So it's an interesting book to read and discuss with your kids. So I really liked reading that one. We still need to read the second one. And then this last summer, we read Holes. And this one is so fun. I had never read the book before then. I'd seen the movie all like growing up and stuff like that, but reading the book was super fun. I think it was more fun for me because I could see the movie in my head, so I had that perspective. My kids had the opposite because they had never seen the movie, so they just had the book, so I don't know what it'd be like to read it without that perspective because all I have is the movie in my head. But I feel like it does a really good job at following the movie, like, because that's the way I'm seeing it. Obviously the movie did a good job at following the book, but my kids watched the movie afterwards, so that was fun. I feel like this is a good one to do that. Not all books and movies that were, made from the book are good to do that. They don't follow it close enough, or they change things very drastically and stuff, and so it's like, wait, what the heck is happening? But I feel like this is a really good one. My kids thought it was so fun. I love it when I can tell they really like what we're reading. They're like, keep going, you can't stop now. So this was one of those books that they did that. I wanted to just mention another like harder topic book that I feel like has been good to read to my kids. It's part of our geography curriculum. We're doing the Notgrass. I was like, what is it even called? The Notgrass, this 50 states. And they have readers that you can buy that go along with some of the sections. So this is a book, I mentioned it recently in I think our quarterly review, but Soft Rain. It's talking about the Cherokee Trail of Tears, which I am not extremely familiar with either. And so it'd be interesting to read some more books about it. But as we've read this, we're maybe a third of the way through it, and my kids are like, what? Like, this actually happened? People were doing those things? I feel like it's just good for them to understand that, we are very blessed in our circumstances, and it's very good for them to see that the world doesn't always function like that, and there's people that are really struggling. It helps them think outside themselves a lot instead of always just being focused inside on what do I want, or what do I need, or this is what I get. And so I feel like that this book has been really good at helping do that, and anything similar to this that kind of just gives them a viewpoint that's different than their own, I think is really, really helpful and provides really good discussion. The last books I wanted to mention before we cut to our intermission is The Giver. I don't know if this would be considered a series. It sort of is, but I feel like the books could also be read independently. We're working on the third one, so we haven't read this one. This is the last one in kind of the grouping, the conclusion. It says the thrilling conclusion. But so Gathering Blue is the second one after The Giver. And again, I feel these two could definitely be read separately because I don't think they have any sort of relation going on at all. And then this one is sort of bridging the gap a little bit between these two books as we've been reading it. And I have always liked The Giver. Again, it pushes your mind to think about stuff in different ways. And if people made different choices, or if we were controlled and had no ability to choose what we wanted to do, this is what the society would look like, right? And gives you these dystopia type of ideas. And even my oldest son, he's like, oh, is this another dystopia type of a book when I brought this one out, I think. And we've talked about that. He's talked about it with my husband, and just to understand a different perspective, because then when they go to say like, well, why can't we just make people do certain things or make them have this or whatever? You have a, like, do you remember how it was in this? Like, that's kind of what it would look like. And do you really want that kind of society? So I feel like they are, again, I like having these discussion books that aren't just frivolous topics. While those are fun and can be like intermingled into some of our group study, I really like things that kind of push our minds to think a little bit more than just very basic things. And I feel like this series so far is doing it for us. I had never read any of the other books, like these two, until now. Like, I didn't even know they existed. I thought it just ended here, you know, in the end of this book, and Jonas is just, maybe he survived, maybe he didn't, I don't know. And that's how I always thought it went. And then there's more to this story. And so I was happy to have them. I know some people have mixed feelings about it, but so far I think they've been really good and really fun to read with my kids. All right, so we're gonna cut to my kids sharing a few of their book recommendations. And so just so you kind of know ages, how that's going down, so if you have a child that's that age. My oldest son is 12, and then I have a daughter that's almost 11, she's 10 and a half-ish, and then a son that's 9, and a daughter that will be 7 in a few weeks. And then my toddler jumped in to share something that he loved as well.
My recommendation
is
Unsold. It's about a boy.
That lives in a world where everyone has magic except for him.
This book is called Skandar and the Unicorn Thieves. I like it, and it's about a 13-year-old boy who lives in a place where unicorns exist. Then, and when he's about to find out if he gets a unicorn or not, he is not allowed in. Why is he not allowed in? Why is he not allowed in? This book is called Keepers of the Lost City. It's about a 12-year-old girl who has a secret, but she doesn't know who she could tell or who would understand the secret. This book is called The Land of Stories. It's about two 12-year-old twins, and on their 12th birthday, they get a present that may change her life forever.
My first recommendation is Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. I like this book because it's about a boy that on the day after his 13th birthday, his entire life changes. My second book recommendation is Last Kids on Earth. I like it because I like scary stuff, and it's about apocalypse. And the last book is basically the same as this one, but it acts like it's made by the people that are in here, but it's just about them being like superheroes and their like dreams.
So hi, I like Bones because it has a book about princesses and queens, and monsters are tasting after the princess, so that's a really fun book because they have a really good thing. And I also like Halo because they're big monsters, and Halo is a robot but has superpowers, and a professor built him. The professor is actually has metal around him where he can turn into a big one. And also I like Wings of Fire. It's also like a war book when the scavengers steal human, steal treasure. So I like those books because they're really fun and to look at. So
Say yay. Okay, hold it.
All right, I I hope you loved all their book recommendations. I thought they did a great job. And it was a little bit hard, like with my oldest son, he's high functioning autistic, and it wasn't something he was super comfortable doing, but we were like working through it with him, like, let's try this. You know, it was, again, like I said, sort of a school project, push yourself a little bit harder than normal. And so he was able to at least do something, and that was better than nothing. And then my toddler he just wanted to participate because everybody else was doing it. So that's where we were with that. He just wanted to hold a book. So now I'm going to share with you a few books that I'd still like to read with my kids, or that they have read, or my husband recommended as well, that might be good options. So there's not too many, and several of them follow a similar vibe. So the first ones are these Ernest Shackleton books. I have read these just personally myself. I loved them, and I think it would be super fun to read them with my kids, and interesting as well. There are so many good talking points in these books. Again, this is the heroes of history. So like I said, they have the Christian heroes, and then this is one of the heroes of history. So this is one of them that I would still like to read. I'm hoping maybe we'll get to it this year. And then along with that, this is another Christian Heroes Then and Now. This is one I just grabbed. I have several of these, but this is a name I recognize. But C.S. Lewis, I don't know a whole lot about him personally, really, besides just a few of his books and quotes that are used a lot. And so I think this would be an interesting person to learn more about. And then some other books, I don't know if they're by the same publishing company as the Christian Heroes and like the Heroes of History, but these books, these are international adventures, and I've had them sitting on my shelf for a little bit, and I just thought it would be interesting to read. So some of these names, I don't even know if I can say them all, but Against All Odds. And then there's A Way Beyond Death. This says a Brazilian couple's fight against fear, suffering, and infanticide. Infanticide. Is that how you say that word? I don't know. But, and then Bring Your Eyes and See. And then this is Our Journey into Justice, Compassion, and Action. And so these are some other ones that I just thought would be interesting to read. I think Ashley from Grace and Grit actually was talking about them, and that's why I got them, because she said her kids like to read them. Again, another one for age appropriate, you know, if you find the right grouping, like what's good for my kids, they would be good for them to read individually. Her kids, I think some of them really like to read those as well. And then another book, we haven't read this as a group, or, you know, it's not my plan to read it as a group, but you could. And some of my kids have read it, my two boys. But I was gonna say Brandon Sanderson, just as a blanket statement. There's a lot of good books there that are more wholesome as far as language and, you know, all that kind of stuff goes. And so this one is The Arithmetist. One of my oldest son got it maybe for his birthday. I can't remember for sure. It might have been for Easter or something. But he read it, and then my other older son read it as well. And so a lot of Brandon Sanderson books. My daughter read The Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I recently read that one as well, and I thought it was a lot of fun, like just interesting, a little bit different, more fantasy-like. And so if you want something like that, or your kids are interested in fantasy, or just something new that you don't have to worry about the content as much, I feel like that would be good. And then this is not a recommendation from me. It's from my husband. He should have made this video, because he really is the one that knows a lot about books, and he's the one that takes the kids to the library and stuff. So he should be the one talking about books, not me. But Harry Potter. I have only read the first few books. I am not necessarily the biggest fantasy fan, and for some reason I had the hardest time getting through the Harry Potter books, but I have gotten him some of the illustrated ones. We have all the ones that are available for Christmas and stuff, and he likes getting those. And so he's read some of these to the kids. He hasn't read all of them, because again, some of the appropriateness, or like they were super magical to him, because he was reading them when they were coming out, and, you know, had to wait for the next one and everything. And so he said it's super fun being able to read them to his kids from that perspective, and to go through it. And he makes all the voices and all the things. He doesn't particularly like the movies. I don't even think he's seen all of them, neither have I. But reading it together is a lot of fun, and obviously they could read it by themselves depending on how old they are or whatever. And so he's gone through a few of them and wants to kind of let them sit there and be magical for the kids before he goes again, because he had to wait for them to come out. So he doesn't want them just to blow through all the books. All right, so those are my book recommendations, more specifically for our group work and things that have worked for us, that I've liked, and then things that I'd still like to read as a group. It might be over the next few years, but we could still read as a group. But again, all these books would work well on an individual basis as long as it's appropriate for the age and reading level of your child. And so make sure you put your book recommendations down in the comments, things you're loving, maybe for group work, or maybe something your kids just really enjoyed reading, because I'm sure we would all benefit. Remember to check out that playlist to see some other great book recommendations, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy talking about books as much as I do, and I will see you next time.